Have you ever sat through a sermon or a therapy session and walked out feeling more confused, more broken, and more alone than when you walked in? I know exactly how that feels because most of the mental health advice you find online is either drowning in clinical language that sounds like it was written for a textbook, or it is some toxic positivity nonsense that tells you to just pray harder and everything will magically disappear. And on the other side, a lot of the psychology content out there completely ignores the spiritual dimension of who you are, as if your faith is irrelevant to your healing. My name is Boris Scott, and I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a pastor with a theology degree hanging on my wall. What I am is someone who has lived through the kind of pain that does not respond to a 5-step program. I have walked through seasons of darkness, trauma, and brokenness that no one talks about from the pulpit. And I have discovered, through personal experience and deep study, that true healing lives exactly at the intersection where the gospel meets the science of the human mind. I follow a lot of faith-based channels and a lot of psychology channels, and the first thing that really hit me, and honestly it frustrated me, is that almost none of them talk to each other. The church says healing is purely spiritual, the therapist says healing is purely psychological, and the person sitting in the middle, carrying both a Bible and a broken heart, is left feeling like they have to choose, like faith and science are enemies. But what if they were never supposed to be separated in the first place? I felt like I really needed to create a space for people who believe in God, but also believe in therapy, for people who have prayed and still feel stuck, for people who love their faith, but are also smart enough to know that trauma rewires the brain and that grace alone does not automatically undo what abuse, loss, or neglect did to your nervous system. You deserve a seat at that table too. Now, I want to be completely honest with you. I am using an AI format for this channel because I am still finding my voice in this space. It is kind of ironic, right? Someone who has done so much inner healing work still gets a little nervous putting himself out there publicly. But even if I am still stepping into my confidence, I absolutely have the experience, the research, and the passion to share what I have learned on the other side of brokenness. And I will be real with you, this whole AI content creation journey is a bit new to me. I am learning these tools as I go, and I am not going to pretend I have a massive production team behind me. But I am showing up anyway, because that is exactly what healing taught me. You do not wait until you are perfect to start. You start broken and you grow along the way. My goal is to create a space where we can talk about the things the church sometimes avoids and the things secular psychology sometimes misses. Because here is what I have noticed. There is a massive gap in this conversation that is costing people their peace, their relationships, and their purpose. In school, we were taught to memorize scriptures, but never taught how to process grief. We were told to forgive, but never shown what forgiveness actually does to your brain chemistry. We grew up in churches that were incredibly passionate about saving souls, but completely silent about healing minds. We sent people back into toxic households, clutching a Bible verse, but carrying unprocessed childhood wounds that would quietly destroy every relationship they ever tried to build. It is like giving someone a map to a destination, but never teaching them how to drive the car. I decided to create the gospel mind because I believe that healing should not be a privilege reserved for people who can afford therapy or who happen to attend the right progressive church. Healing should be as accessible and as fundamental as the gospel itself. There are so many channels out there right now, but most of them either give you shallow spiritual motivation that feels good on Sunday and fades by Tuesday, or they give you psychological frameworks with no room for faith, no room for grace, no room for the reality that some things can only be explained by something greater than science alone. I mean, feeling inspired for 48 hours is fine, but that completely misses the real problem. The real problem is that you have been taught that struggling means you lack faith, and that has kept you silent, isolated, and stuck for far too long. My goal for this community is to give you content that is incredibly easy to absorb, deeply rooted in truth, and actually useful for the real battles you are fighting. I want to take the deep things I have learned through personal healing and serious study and distill them into simple, practical frameworks. We are going to talk about how trauma actually works in the brain and why willpower alone will never be enough to overcome it. We are going to talk about what the gospel really says about identity and why most people are living from a wounded self rather than a redeemed one. We are going to build what I like to call a gospel mind, a mind that is both spiritually grounded and psychologically whole. You deserve to have a mental and spiritual foundation that gives you the freedom to live from a place of peace rather than survival. Because I have seen people with perfect church attendance who are completely falling apart on the inside. And I have watched people with broken pasts and messy stories build extraordinary lives of wholeness through the right combination of faith, truth, and healing work. It is not about how religious you appear. It is about what is actually happening in your mind and your spirit beneath the surface. This channel is going to be a place where we talk about the quietly broken phenomenon, where looking spiritually put together has become more important than actually being healed. We will talk about why religious performance is one of the greatest obstacles to genuine transformation. We will dig into why the mind God gave you is not your enemy, and why understanding psychology does not make you less faithful, it actually makes your faith more powerful. I am finding this whole journey to be a bit like the healing process itself. It is slow at first. I am making mistakes, but I am learning and growing every single day. I am just a human being who happens to have walked through fire and come out the other side with something real to offer. And I want to share that with you so you can stop living in survival mode and start stepping into the fullness of who God actually created you to be. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make right now. And I'm going to make sure you have the right framework to get there, not just spiritually, not just psychologically, but wholly. I know I am just someone with a story and a passion for truth, but I am really looking forward to walking this road with you. I cannot wait to see where this journey takes us as we build your gospel mind together. If you are ready to stop letting your past define your present and start living from the healed version of yourself that God always intended, make sure to join us on this journey. I will see you in the first real video very soon. Peace.